Welcome to Education 101 with your host, Eric Wolfram. Education 101 is about the amazing education community we have in the greater Spokane area. We highlight the outstanding programs, teachers, supporters, and opportunities of the education community in the Spokane region. Education 101 is brought to you in part by STCU. Here's Eric.
And welcome to Education 101. I'm your host, Eric Wolfram. Today we're going to be talking about real-world math and real-world math and the idea of estimation. And with me, we have Deborah Kulkowski from ESD 101, one of my colleagues there, who is our math coordinator. So, Deb, welcome. I know you've been on before, but welcome back.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent.
It's always fun.
So what we're going to be talking about is that whole idea of real-world math. I think that's one of those areas where we start to think about mathematics. Some people may have that math fear, some of those, but kind of, I guess in my mind, taking it from that, some of that abstract piece to the concrete of how do we actually use this? Making it relevant. Making it relevant is the piece that kind of goes along with it. So talk to us about estimation, right? Because I know that's something that we're going to have somebody by the name of Graham Fletcher down the road, and we'll talk more about that later on. But talk to us about estimation and real-world math.
Okay, so to start off with, one of the charges that we have, if you will, right now in math education is that sometimes what you and I would think of as classroom math, and I'm sure most people would agree with us, it doesn't have a real connection to math that we do in our lives in the real world.
Right.
So estimation is a good tie-in. And in our new or our newer Washington State learning standards, all of our math standards have a real intentional focus on helping math learners of all ages connect experiences, math learning experiences, to math that they would use in their real life and out in the real world in a real situation.
Absolutely.
So, for example, if I go to the grocery store and I am supposed to purchase a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk, and I have $5 in my pocket, most everybody has either seen or had the experience where you're standing at the checkout and you don't have enough money. Nobody wants to go there.
Nope.
So let's say I pick up a gallon of milk, and let's say the gallon of milk is $2.99. So I don't usually pull out a piece of paper and a pencil and write down $2.99.
Right.
What happens is in my head, I would round up to $3.
Sure.
And then I would know I have $2 left for a loaf of bread, and that would be the limit, or I'd have to go home and get more money, or I'd solve that problem in some way. It isn't just in the grocery store. People do it in carpentry, in home projects. Often when you buy a bag of fertilizer, it tells you the number of square feet that your lawn covers. And you estimate. You don't go out and measure your lawn.
No. I would guess that the people listening right now, they probably used it today as they were going through.
They probably did.
I think it's just something that we use all the time.
But we don't necessarily think about it.
No.
That we're using our math skills.
And that it's a
in
skill
real world
to learn.
application. Agreed. And that it's a skill that's learned, and we can get better at estimating if we know a few strategies and we spend some time practicing those strategies.
Absolutely.
So whether you're doing that in sewing or in, like I said, buying fertilizer, or you're at Lowe's and Home Depot buying something, or figuring out the square footage for something, or there's just so many ways that we would estimate.
Absolutely.
Instead of picking up a piece of paper and a pencil, or in the world we live in now, people don't do that. They grab their phone and they're using the calculator.
And I think, and something that you talked about too, is you talked about it's a skill that we use. It's a learned skill. And I think we have a misconception that says, oh, that's a skill I learned back in about, third grade, second grade, something like that. And that's it. I'm done. I don't really need to continue on with it because I got it. But I think you're right. I think what you talked about was the idea of not just how do we get better at it, but how do we tie it into our real lives and our real world,
Right.
and that's where that term real world mathematics comes to.
So this would
making
be
it
something
relevant.
that even parents can do with their kids in the summer. So now let's talk about, because I chose estimation for today. Many of us have had the experience too where you might walk into some sort of a store or there's a contest and you're expected to estimate how many of something there is in some sort of a container.
It's a carnival.
Like it could be at a carnival, like the Skittles jar that we have here on the
That's
table.
right.
And so the typical question would be, how many? And you'd make a guess, and you'd probably write it on a piece of paper, and you'd throw it in something, and
Absolutely.
whoever gets closest wins a prize.
Wins the prize, sure.
So I'm going to ask you to make a guess.
On how many I think are in there?
Yes.
Just any random guess.
Yep, off the top of your head that you think would be, a guess.
Oh, shoot. I would say 463.
Okay, 463.
463.
All right. And
That's my thought.
we know that it's more than one, clearly.
Obviously.
That would be
Yeah.
unreasonably low, and 1,000,000 would be unreasonably high.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So 463
Is in between 1 and 1,000,000, so I've got
so
that.
it sounds like it could be a reasonable estimate. And that's how most people go about
Mm-hmm.
doing their estimate. But there's a few strategies we could use that might help you rethink or refine your strategy.
Okay.
And you could go through those in your head as you're standing there in line. And one of them that we talk about in math is think about a smaller case or a smaller number, for instance.
Right.
So now, what I would do if I were having you do this is I would set this aside for just a minute.
Okay.
And I would ask you to estimate a smaller number or a smaller case. And I would ask you to estimate about how many Skittles you believe is in that light bulb.
Can I touch it and pick
You
it up and
can
look
touch
at
it and pick it up and look at it.
Well, I guess, I'm kind of looking at it, and I see multiple different colors. I will say that, so I see the orange, the yellow, green, red, and is that purple?
It is.
They're Skittles. So, yeah. I'm going to say 100. But
Okay.
I don't want to because the jar is a lot bigger, and I said 463.
Well, and this was intentional.
Yeah.
The shape of the light bulb is different than the shape
Right.
of the jar, so that it challenges you to think, to have to really think
Right.
about your estimation. We could even take it a step further and try a little bit smaller case. And kids love this, by the way,
Yeah.
when they're engaged in the math. So I'm going to ask you to rip open the Skittles and see if you want to change. You said 100.
Right.
I'm going to let you rip open a Skittles package, see how many are in the package, and see if you want to change your estimate of 100 at all.
Estimate of 100.
You estimated that there were 100 in here.
Do I have to separate them by colors?
You could, but you don't have to.
Okay. There's 3, 4, 5 right there. There's 5 right there. So that gives me 10 and another 5. So I have 15 in here. So that's 15 in just that little bit that I have.
I have
And
16
if I
in
kind
mine.
of hold it up and I compare it to this. Oh, let's see. So if I estimated 20 times 5 would be 100. 5 of that group in here. I might change it. I might up it to about 130.
Okay.
I think I need to go higher.
Okay.
I need to go higher.
Okay.
That's my thought.
So what we've just done is we've taken a smaller case again, and you've taken, and this is what we would want any math learner, and I've done this with kids as low as first grade. This experience is based actually on a first grade math standard of estimating and place value. However,
On first grade. Okay.
but when
How am I doing?
you're doing great.
Okay, good.
But we can open it up because it's a very open task. We can use it with learners of all levels to think about just estimating in general and
Right.
not focusing on place value. So you said 100, and we took, what I saw you do is you took what you noticed about your package,
Right.
which was slightly different than mine. I noticed there's different colors, but that doesn't
Absolutely.
really have to do with the math.
No.
But I did notice that. And you used it to refine your estimate. You changed it from 100 and you upped it to 130. So now, I would, at this point, and let me back up. There's a video that actually shows somebody filling one of these.
Okay.
And back when you opened up your package, your sample size package of Skittles, I would have shown you that video. It's online. It's accessible to anyone for free, and we'll give that address in a bit.
Could I just search
You could.
Skittles and the light bulb Skittles?
You know, I don't know, but we're going to give the information
Okay.
on the website where this is at.
Okay.
And it might be, if you said Skittles in a light bulb, it might come up.
Sure.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
If you Google search Graham Fletcher and Skittles, it's much more likely to come up because that's the man who put this task. And it's his video on his website. That you can show kids and say,
Right.
what do you notice and how do you want to change?
Absolutely.
And we're unable to show that video clip right here. It's only 20 seconds. When we've used that, kids usually ask to see it a second time because they really want to watch how the Skittles drop in. And some kids are trying to count them even.
Sure.
So they're trying to really hone in on their estimate and make it as accurate as they can, because this is like something they've seen in the grocery store or the hardware store
Right.
or wherever. And usually when they see this out in the real world and there's some prize involved, that motivates kids
A little
to want
motivation
to
on that.
be as accurate as they can in their estimation.
So you've done this not just with kids of all ages. You've done this with adults too,
I have.
and kind of going through some of that process.
I have. I've done it with math educators,
Right.
K-12, but I've also done it with administrators to help them understand some of the things that we ask kids and teachers
Right. To be
to
doing.
know and be able to do, and the conversations that happen because of some of the questions that we ask. Notice I haven't been telling you how to do it. I didn't tell you to count your
No.
Skittles. I didn't tell you to sort them by color. It wouldn't have helped.
Right.
But a large piece of estimation or any other strategy that we're going to use would be thinking about the questions you can pose to have the other person think rather than just tell them what you think.
Yeah. So I think that's a teaching strategy as well, even in the classroom, not just with adults, but even in the classroom when we start to think about how we may teach differently than when we grew up. But it's really about that questioning. How do we start to get them to think and understand some of these concepts? So what I want to do is, why don't we take a quick break? And then after that break, why don't we come back and maybe talk about some of those questions? I know you've done that. You brought some of the data and show kind of how it changes a little bit as well, and talk a little bit about that. Maybe even some ideas of what are some other things that parents can do, since it's summertime. They got the kids at home. This would be a fun activity to do that estimation, but there might be some other things as well. So why don't we take a quick break, and we'll catch you right after this quick commercial break.
Your home is unique, and you deserve an assessor that understands Spokane real estate home values. I'm Realtor Leonard Christian, and I'm running to be your next county assessor. I served our nation for over 20 years in the United States Air Force and as a Washington State representative. I have the education, skills, and experience needed to be your next county assessor, and I encourage you to find out more at leonardchristianforassessor.com. People matter, and you deserve a leader who listens. It's time to elect Leonard Christian for Spokane County Assessor, paid for by Leonard Christian for Assessor.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeese Wheeler Attorneys. McNeese Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeese Wheeler, attorneys.
The economy is getting stronger. Banks are lending again, and interest rates are at historic lows. Now is a great time to buy your dream home. The caring and knowledgeable professionals at Homes for You have been helping people just like you for over 20 years. They take the time to listen to what you want and will help you find just the right home in Washington or Idaho. Real estate is what we do at Homes for You, 928-5782, or visit online at homes4uspokane.com.
And welcome back to Education 101. I'm your host, Eric Wolfram. Again, we're talking estimation and that real-world math piece with Deborah Kolkowski from ESD 101. And before the break, we were talking a little bit about our Skittles experiment here around estimation. And I think that's where we left off. We talked about kind of some of that idea that, you know, you weren't telling me how to do it, but you were questioning and encouraging me to just kind of figure it out, and it may look different. So where are we at?
So one of the really important pieces is to give math learners of all ages, including ourselves right here, a chance to talk and to talk about how you saw it. And would you explain one more time how you changed your estimation and
Absolutely.
what you did?
Based upon the Skittles, I kind of held them just in my hand. And I was saying, okay, there's 15 here that I'm looking at. If this is 15, shoot, that probably only covers the very bottom of the of the light bulb. I'm trying to do some visual comparison. And so if that's the case, I set 100 in here. And if this is 15, I kind of rounded and said, 20-ish, because I know quick math in my head, 20 times 5 is 100. So 5 of these handfuls, roughly, would that fill it up? And I said to myself, no. So if it doesn't fill it up, then I need to add to it. Just again, I'm estimating based upon the visual connection that I have. That's the way my mind works. I'm one of those visual guys of, I got to see it. So that's how I did it.
Okay, so there would be a conversation between you and a partner or a small group, and someone else might say, well, I looked at this, and first of all, do they move at all? And they don't. So we know it's completely filled.
Yeah.
What you would see in the video, but you don't see here, and I should have showed you this. See, this is filled, it literally is filled all the way.
All the way. I almost asked that question, is I wonder if there's any up inside.
And someone might ask that question, but if we'd seen the video, again, that's online that goes with this activity, it shows that really quickly. But somebody else might say, well, okay, it looks like there's about 5. I can imagine 5 here and maybe 10 here.
Okay.
Or 20 here.
Sure.
And I'm going to kind of average that
almost
again.
Rings, like
rings, like layers. And they might say, okay, I'm going to round that to 10. If I think there's 5 on the bottom and there's maybe 15 around, if I did a circle at the widest part of this light bulb, then I'm going to round that to 10. And then it looks like there's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, and I've seen kids do this, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Maybe they see 10 layers.
Sure.
So they would then say, okay, I think a reasonable estimate would be 100.
Okay.
Whether you agree with that or not, we're just talking about our thinking and how we came to that number.
It's almost like we think about the old brainstorming. There's no wrong number
because right
at this
now we're
point.
just estimating and we're sharing strategies.
Yeah.
So then what we would do is we would, of course, we're going to take what we knew about the Skittles, and you changed your estimation. And we did that because we're going to, really, our question is how many Skittles are in the quart jar, right?
Right.
So we're using this smaller case to try and refine our thinking and really focus on the math and spatial reasoning. So I think we have some slides that show some data.
Right, because
you've done this,
if you were
in a classroom and you did this with a number of people, you could gather some information, which we did. And when you look at that, there are estimates that range anywhere from about 200 was the lowest, 200 and something. And it went all the way, some of the highest ones were like in the 600 and 700.
Sure.
But we gave everybody a range from 0 to less than 100 was the lowest category
Yeah.
at the top, and then greater than 1,000
Okay.
is on that slide. So then, after they've seen the package of Skittles and they've seen the light bulb, we let them use what they know about the light bulb. And I'll tell you right now, there are 115 Skittles in this light bulb.
Man, I went too high.
That's all right.
Okay.
So now your choice is you get to rethink your estimate again one more time for the quart jar.
Okay.
So if there's 115 in the light bulb, does that change your estimate of 400 and was it 23?
63.
63.
Yeah, 463. I think it does. I mean, honestly, and again, I'm visual, so you got to bear with me. But the way that I'm thinking about it is right in the middle of there. I could put one of these light bulbs that way, one of these light bulbs that way. And then all around the outside, I'm thinking maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so like 600 along the top.
Wow.
And maybe 600 along the bottom.
Okay.
So I'm going to change it to 1,200.
Okay, so
There
first
we
thing,
go.
because we
How
forgot to
about
do this,
that?
this is entirely full. They're not
It
moving
is.
around again,
Yeah.
so I forgot to show you that part. So that's what we do with
Yeah.
math learners.
So I've completely changed it.
And most people do, but not everybody. We have another slide that shows where people took their original sticky notes and look at the shape of the data and how it changed. So people moved their estimations. They got
really
larger.
Moved. Yeah, they all got quite a bit larger.
Right.
So-
And they're now within a range from about 560 to over 1,000,
Right.
just like you
Yeah,
did.
just like I moved to there.
So that's a pretty common way to do it. And what you did again was you started explaining to me how you used the light bulb to think about how many of these light bulbs would fit in the quart jar.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep,
That's
that's it.
one strategy that I've heard. Another strategy is, again, remember how I talked about layers in the light bulb? So there are some folks, a different little strategy to think about this would be, there are people who will say, I want to think about how many Skittles would be in one layer.
And doing that exact kind of thing.
And doing the
before.
same thing.
Yep.
And then they look at how many layers they believe there could be top to bottom. So let's say that I said, I want a round number. So I'm going to say there's 20 on a layer.
Sure.
And what if there's 30 layers?
Yeah.
So then I can do that math in my head, and that would mean that my estimate might go to 500.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm dying.
Okay.
What's the total? How'd I do?
So you're high. The actual number of Skittles in this jar is 923.
So I'm closer than I was.
You
so
are.
That's good. Based
are.
upon being able to go through this.
And it's not an unreasonable. One of the things that we often ask kids, or parents would even ask kids, is that reasonable? And
Yeah.
the kids have no idea what we mean by
Yeah.
reasonable. We mean, is it in the ballpark? Where 263 is not really, when you think about it, a reasonable estimate when
Right.
there's 923.
Yeah.
But if
But
it
when
was,
we originally look at it and kind of go, take a guess.
And we
That's
didn't use any
definitely a thing.
strategies. We
No.
didn't use
But
any
that gives us
strategies of using a
strategies.
smaller
And I think,
case.
that's an interesting piece as we kind of go through that as well. I know that there's a lot of conversation out there right now about new mathematics but we really try to build that, I think, that understanding piece. And
The
if
conceptual understanding.
Yeah, and if you think about learning a skill, throw whatever skill is in there, because mathematics, I do believe, is a skill. We have conversations. If you are learning the skill of, let's say, welding, you're having conversations, you're asking questions, you're being an apprentice, and you're making mistakes and trying it again and doing all those kinds of things. That's what we're encouraging kids to do nowadays, not just come up with the answer, but how do you get there and what mistakes along the way, and let's really think about this skill and learn it.
So you brought up a really good point. And it wouldn't be with just welding. It wouldn't matter if it was welding, golf, reading, it literally anything that we learn, we can learn more about.
That's right. And
so it takes taking risks,
Yeah.
making mistakes, looking at the mistake, talking about it,
Yeah.
learning from others, and then coming back to it.
Let's briefly talk about Graham Fletcher. I know that he's somebody that's coming, and I think we have a slide for that to be able to show.
Yes.
Tell me very briefly what he's all about.
So, I've listed on the logo right there, his logo on his website and the address, gfletchy.com. This Skittles activity actually came from his website, and he is coming to Spokane on August 6th and 7th. And on the 6th, he's doing a one-day workshop for K2 teachers where he talks about estimation and many other things. This is just we only have a short amount of time to talk about this. So we chose a small task that we could walk through.
Exactly. And
to
this
give
is
folks an idea about
right.
it.
These are the types of things that he does, is those instructional strategies around real world math, right?
Yes. And
Great.
making it very conceptually understandable for learners of all ages, and building bridges in their content knowledge.
That's
so
wonderful.
He's also doing a 3-5 day on August 7th. And if people are interested in finding out either more information or registering, they can either contact the ESD or they can contact me at dkolkowski, DKOWALKOWSKI.net. And I'm at the ESD.
Kolkowski at ESD101.net. Yes.
Thanks for the clarification.
Deb, I need to have you back because you know what? We didn't get to talk. We didn't get to talk about the idea of what are some other things that we can get to do with our kids during the summertime. This is a great example of something that you can do with things you probably have around with Skittles, different things like that. Just estimation and trying some different things and talk. But thank you so much for being here. Again, Graham Fletcher will be here in early August. Thanks for joining us today on Education 101. Hope to catch you next time.
Education 101 is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Education 101 is brought to you by our friends at STCU. Ask Eric a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com.